Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
In this lecture, I am going to present a case study of Enron, which is one of the very controversial case of power project in India. And through this case study, we will have to understand that how not only the investment makes a change, but investment needs other supports for the completion of the project. Let me begin with what was the history of Enron. In 1992, the Enron Corporation, which was the US based multinational energy trading company, has announced that it will build a 3 billion natural gas power plant in Dabhol in Maharashtra. This was to be the poster child of economic liberalization in the country. As we have seen, if you can just go back in 1991, on 24th July 1991, Government of India has announced the new industrial policy, and which was completely different from the previous policies of industrialization in India. We can also see here that India had a long history of industrialization by the public sector, and private sector were not really supported for varieties of investment. They were not having permission to invest in many sectors, and India continued with a complete state run industrialization model for many years. And in 1991, due to the economic crisis which India has faced, government and policy makers has decided to work on a new economic model, and that economic model is named as the economic liberalization, or India was basically coming out from the previous way of economic growth and development to the new way of economic growth and development through the help of more private participation from outside the world, and looking for more outward industrialization instead of looking for what inward approach a country can have for protecting their local industries and investors. We have seen that in case of Enron, which was one of the first case soon after the economic reform process, with a $3 billion investment. It was not a basically a small investment, but it was a joint venture with US companies, especially General Electric, Bechtel and Enron, which has created an Indian subsidiary called Dabhol Power Corporation. So, if we can if one can see here the percentage ownership of different partners in Enron. Enron itself had the 65% investment, while the Bechtel had little less investment, 10%. General Electric had the 10% investment, and rest of the investment was by the Maharashtra State Electricity Board. So, it is the case of joint venture with huge investment from outside, because only 15% investment is from the Indian side, but 85% investment was from outside. So, what are the basic statistics which is impressive and which cannot be ignored when we are talking about the infrastructure projects in India? The total project cost was $2.9 billion. The project was 2,184 megawatts, which Enron claimed the largest gas fired power plant in the world. The plant closed in June 2001 due to the payment and contract dispute between the Maharashtra state government and the plant owners. Enron said it incurred over $1 billion cost for the plant. So, the sunk cost cannot be recovered in case of Enron. So, let me also see here what was the timeline of Enron project in India, and starting from 1992 how it has gone to the level of closure. We are finding here that it was basically the year when Enron had started investment in 1991 to 92, as we have already seen that this was the year of Indian economy to depart from the completely controlled economic model to the liberal economic model, allowing investors to join the market, private foreign investors to come and join the hand in certain sectors, and power sector was the first example where India opened its avenues for the foreign investors. In February 1992, Enron began investing opportunities in the Indian power sector. By May 1992, we can see here that Enron executives delivered the ideas to the Indian Power Secretary, who was in the United States, to encourage foreign participation in the Indian power sector. By June 1992, Enron and General Electric signed a Memorandum of Understanding (MOU) with the Maharashtra State Electricity Board to build the Dabhol projects. The operating entity was the Dabhol Power Company, a joint venture. Enron was the majority owner, as we have seen in the pie diagram, with the 65% of the ownership, while General Electric and Bechtel had the 10% share, and rest of the shares was the Maharashtra Electricity Board. So, Enron had a hope, because India was one of the bigger economy at that time also in terms of consumer, and this project was a very much target oriented project, where US company were looking for a successful completion. And in June 1992 to December 1993, the parties negotiated the terms of the deal. Enron obtained the necessary approvals from the projects from the Indian government, and this was the time when even the government had not government of India had not really created any condition in which investment would have been stopped, but government of India has given an opportunity to these investors to join the power company. December 1993, the Dabhol Power Company and Maharashtra State Electricity Board has also signed the power purchase agreement. By early 1994, Enron sought and obtained $635 million in financing, insurance and loan guarantee from Bank of America, ABN AMRO, a group of Indian banks, the US Export Import Bank, and the Overseas Private Investment Corporation, OPIC. By January 1995, Commerce Secretary Brown visited India with Ken Lay, and overseas signed off loan agreements by the Dabhol Power Company with the US Export Import Bank and OPIC. So, by 1995, we are finding that there are only hopes and hopes coming in the favor of Enron, and whether it is the central government or the state government, both were really helping this particular company to get in and to start the power projects. And with this hope, we are finding that in 1995, spring 1995, the politics, especially in Maharashtra, opposition alliance won the election in Maharashtra in March, and in May the new government appointed a committee of state ministers, the Munde Committee, to review the Dabhol project. By August 1995, the Munde Committee issued a sharp critical report that recommended scrapping the Dabhol projects. The state government acted on the advice. So, in case of Enron, from 1991 to 1995, before spring, we are finding that there was really a very hopeful condition, but soon after the election result, we are finding that there is a new turn in the Enron project, and then the controversy started. Between August to December 1995, Enron entered arbitration and asked for $300 million compensation, because the committee has recommended for scrapping the project, and the state government has also agreed for scrapping the project. So, Enron has entered into the arbitration and asked for the compensation of $300 million. The state government filed suit in September alleging fraud and misinterpretation of the US officials, including Energy Secretary, and Energy Secretary Hazel O'Leary also warned India that this type of action will discourage the foreign investment from United States side. By November 1995, Rebecca Mark, chairman of Enron International, met Bal Thackeray. Negotiations resumed between Enron and the state. Further hope to Enron. With this visit in 1995 with Bal Thackeray, there was further hope that Enron will again start functioning. The state announced it will accept a revised agreement, that was the January 1996. By February 1996, the state and the Dabhol Power Company finalized the terms of revised agreement. 1996 to 97, legal challenges to the projects by Indian group continued, but are eventually dismissed. By 1997, Enron obtained approval from the Indian government to expand the Dabhol liquefied natural gas terminal to allow it to process 5 million metric tons annually. So, with a slight controversial conditions, especially which we have seen in our previous example, that Enron had a very tough time, especially in 1995, when Enron had no other choice except to go for the arbitration and ask for the compensation of $300 million. And it was just because of the election results. So, we are finding here that the politics of Maharashtra in that period was not allowing this company to continue, and whatever was the reason, one of the important point to notice here is this happened because of the change in the government. So, one of the important point which should be noticed here, that again there was a change in the government mindset with the interference of the Rebecca Mark, chairman of the Enron International, which had a meeting with Bal Thackeray and which has negotiated for resuming the Enron in the state. And but this hope was again came as the part of the revised agreement, and the state and the Dabhol Power Company has again finalized the terms of the agreement, and Enron obtained the approval from the Indian government to expand the Dabhol liquefied natural gas terminal to allow it to the process of 5 million metric tons annually. So, but by 1999, Dabhol phase 1 740 megawatts began generating. In January 2001, the state of Maharashtra stopped paying for Dabhol as its $22 million December 2000 bill. The state subsequently seek to cancel the power purchase agreement. So, Enron again began arbitration proceedings in April 2001. So, we can say here from 1995 or 96 to 1999, there was some production going on, and after that, even if production was going on, the state government was not ready to buy the power from this particular company, and there was the cancel of the power purchase agreement by the state government. So, politics at home and in the United States. April 2001, Secretary of State Colin Powell raised Enron's problem regarding Dabhol in a discussion with India's foreign minister at that time. By May 2001, between May to June, we are finding that the Dabhol Power Company ceased operations of the phase 1 portion of the plant and halted construction on the 90% completed phase 2 portion. By May 2001, the Bush administration released the White House Energy Plant, which contained a provision that benefited Enron India's operation. June 2001, Vice President raised Dabhol in a meeting with Sonia Gandhi, the President of India's opposition Congress Party at that time. And by July 2001, the National Security Council led a Dabhol working group with administration officials including Treasury State, the Export Import Bank and the OPIC officials, because there were many partners, especially the investors involved in this project. And by July 2001, Christina Roca, Assistant Secretary of State, met with Indian officials on Dabhol issue. So, what we are finding here that instead of a proper speedy completion of the project, we are finding here that Enron had a controversial stage for many years, and by October 2001, US Under Secretary of the State of Economic, Business and Agriculture Affairs raised Dabhol with the Indian Foreign Minister again and the Indian National Security Advisor also. By November 2001, when the talking points were prepared for President Bush to discuss Dabhol in a meeting with Indian Prime Minister A.B. Vajpayee on November 9, the topic was basically before the meeting on November 8, the Enron disclosed a 586 million loss it was disclosed that this type of loss incurred during the entire project in India. And basically in the entire process we are finding that the economic reform process which India has started in 1991 has not really well supported by the political parties of India. And Enron was the first case where the company had the huge investment, and that investment was the largest in the world in terms of power infrastructure. So, when we say that when we compare the economic reform process with other country, India's economic reform process with other country, we find out that economic reform process in other countries are well planned, well managed and fully supported by the political parties compared to the political interference which we have seen in case of Enron Power project. The infrastructure development in many newly industrialized countries is an eye opener for many developing countries today, because if one can see the progress made in Singapore or progress made in South Korea or progress made in Hong Kong, those progress are basically much more politically supported than the progress in India. And one can ask that what is the reason basically? The foreign investment is one of the major reason in India for the politics. FDI, there are benefits of FDI and there are challenges from the FDI. And when we say there are benefits from FDI, the opposition parties are basically counting what are basically the challenges and what are basically the losses of FDI. So, in case of Enron, the price of the electricity was one of the major issue which was basically fought between the state government and the Enron, and there was a blame game on the different government, and ultimately this happened because we have less thought about the economics, but the Indian political parties has more thought about the politics, and there would have been a proper mechanism to solve such crisis, because a country like India, a developing country like India, cannot really continue only with local support or domestic support in infrastructure sector. We have to have depend on the international support. We have to really work on the financial we have to really work on the assistance from international agencies. We have to really attract the foreign direct investment. We have to also look for the bonds and debentures in infrastructure. We have to also look for the institutional investment, and ultimately we cannot really work on the one source of finance for the infrastructure projects, but we have to really think for the multiple source of financing for infrastructure due to the high urbanization and migration going on in India and other developing countries. So, in particular, especially in this case, in case of Enron, we are finding that there was huge political interference. US secretary were constantly involved in meeting the political parties and the leaders and sorting out the issues and trying hard to continue with the projects. But at the same time, the state, the support which they have received from the state was not really convincing them, and that is why they were always going for the arbitration and finding out the compensations and other things. This was the first setback to a large FDI in infrastructure in India. And one can say that since it was 1992 and India was not having a complete mature economic reforms atmosphere, but we were struggling at that time. We were struggling between whether infrastructure should be under the full control of the state government, or whether a state should be the only partner in infrastructure development, or we have to also invest, we have to also look for the FDI or other international sources. It was the setback for the India, which was really looking for a more advanced and liberalized economic model. But at the same time, compared to 1991 and 92, the other projects which was started after 2000 or around 2000, they were having much maturity from the political parties in terms of support from the political parties compared to 1991 and 92 projects. So, we will try to also find out in a different case study that how India had a different level of maturity in the field of infrastructure development compared to 1991 and 92. But in this particular case, we are not finding a mature steps by the Indian government. Whatever was the reason, when we say sign a contract for the investment, when we allow somebody to come and join the country, it is indeed important to protect the interest of those investors. Otherwise, we are not only destroying the opportunity of the current FDI, but we are also destroying the opportunity for the future FDI, and this happened in India. And since this was one of the major case of the full FDI support in infrastructure and power sector, the India, which was really looking for a more liberal and independent investment atmosphere, had a very tough time at the international level, especially the foreign delegations started asking that why Enron failed, and why government of India has not supported to stop such failure, what action has been taken by the state government, and why not there should be pre-planning before allowing such FDI. So, there were many questions till today. In case of Enron, India had to answer varieties of queries by the investors still today, and we are not really free from those questions. Getting investment is not difficult in infrastructure, but protecting investment is more important. That is the foremost lesson which we can take from Enron power projects. With this note, I would also like to also inform you that I will also try to bring some more case study in terms of road construction and other things, and then we will find out that how India really started from started a case of failure to a case of success. And why we are talking about India, because it is one of the most important developing country in the world today. So, these lessons and the success and failure story from these cases are really helping us to understand how good we were in our planning and how good we were in terms of receiving the investment even in the first stage of liberalization which India started after 1991. So, has India reformed the economic reform? That is another issue which we will learn when we will discuss about the open economic model in infrastructure in our some other module. But at the same time, we cannot ignore the fact that there are many lessons which one can take from Enron, and FDI in infrastructure, especially in Enron, is an important issue for the government and policy makers at the state level and also at the central level to really consider, because more we are waiting for the infrastructure, more we have to be serious about protecting the interest of the investors, as well as government has the double responsibility, as Stiglitz pointed out, that when we are more in the private mode, we are not really stopping the responsibility of the government, but instead of government has the new responsibility, and that new responsibility is not as a producer, but as a facilitator and regulator, as a partner in the projects, not as a contradicting the projects, because as a partner we are finding here that partner in the case when government is a partner, government is not a partner for the investors only, but government is also a partner in the development process of the economy for those citizens, for those, because government represents the citizens, and for they have to really work on balancing the responsibility between the investors as well as the public. I think with this note we will also discuss some other case studies in infrastructure projects in India. Thank you.